Hey everyone, Sam from United People's TV, here again with Jim from PalaceFanTV, and we just wanted to have a chat really about a certain Wilf Zaha, because that's the player that we've got in connection, and I think it's quite an interesting one, because what I wanted to chat to Jim about is how differently do Palace fans view his time at United in comparison to how United fans look at it. Because from my perspective, Wilf was very unlucky in the fact that he was Fergie's last signing, and then out of the blue, Fergie retired. I think he probably joined to be a Fergie player just as much as he joined Man United. Mm-hmm. But I also think under David Moyes, Zaha could have done more. I think he turned up late to training. He got sent to the under-21s, turned up late there as well. I think his attitude at times was questionable. I think he was probably a fish out of water, moved away from London, in Manchester, deer in headlights, didn't really know where he was. But what I want to know is where you think it went wrong for Zaha in that season, and do you think the blame lies mainly with him himself or the context and situation he was put into?
I honestly think the blame lies with various people and things. I think Moyes could have used him better. I think there were probably certain cup games and stuff where he could have played and didn't. But I think at the time, Wilf was a bullish young kid, 15 million or whatever it was up front, so he suddenly starts to feel like he's the man. And of course, wherever you go, no matter what club you sign for, how much money, you've got to go and work very hard at that club and prove yourself. And I feel like Wilf probably got ahead of himself a little bit. And he was used to being the big fish in the little pond down at Palace, best player easily. In fact, when he signed for you, we were still in the Championship, and he loaned back to us and then helped us get promoted. And then, obviously, we're now in the Premier League. So I think he possibly treated the whole thing wrong. It was kind of mistakes on all sides, really. But I would say that he's learnt from it.
I do think you've touched a point there, is that there's a certain player, take Anthony Martial for example. He came for a big fee, same as Zaha came for a big fee, but instead of coming to Man United and thinking, right, I've made it, he came to United and thought, right, I'm at the very bottom, I've got to work my way up. I think that's maybe a mentality switch that Zaha went from earning X amount a week at Palace to, because I know he bought a flash car straight away, and whilst Nick Powell was still driving around in his Vauxhall Corsa. And Nick Powell's
Where is Nick Powell?
Where is Nick Powell? Nick Powell has had surgery, and I think he's on like 300 days rehabilitation at the moment.
Wow.
And there's questions now about whether he could retire from football altogether. Might be disillusioned with it, which is terrible.
What a shame. Good player, very good player.
We're the same sort of age as Zaha. I think there was a point with the under-21s we were looking at. Powell was there, Zaha was there. There was loads of other players, I can't remember them. But it was a good time for England. I still think that Zaha's he's a match winner, but that's what we were talking about in the preview. You're saying that Pardew's taken that teacher role with him.
Yeah, which I think he needed and didn't get under Moyes. I
don't think a lot of players got a lot under Moyes. That's why I say it's not all his fault. Yeah. Because he walked into it was a bomb that went off at Old Trafford that time, like Fergie leaving, Moyes. Yeah. There was a lot of players that got distant, even Rio Ferdinand.
You could say Fergie was maybe dropped Wilf in it a little bit, because Fergie must have known he was going to go.
No, that's the point, is that Fergie didn't know he was going to go, because obviously Kathy, his wife, her sister died. I'm not sure whether it was a sudden death or whether it was natural causes that he knew was coming, but he just felt, no, now's the time. Because you could see it when Nani got sent off in the Champions League for that crap red card. Dumb Turkish ref. Not that I'm bitter or hold on to it. Right, I just want to clarify that. But you saw Fergie's reaction on the sideline. He went absolutely mental, and then he didn't do his media duties after. And nobody knew at that point that he was going to retire. But when it all came out, it's like, okay, well,
that's totally fair enough. But I think obviously that ended up being bad timing for Wilf, because you can imagine Zaha under someone like Ferguson, I think would have been the perfect mentor for him. I think he really would have brought out the best in Wilf, and he'd probably still be at United now and probably be a regular and probably a regular for England. But in a weird way, the whole United saga, I think, has actually been really good for Wilf, because it taught him, you are not the man, you've not made it, you've still got to prove yourself. He came back to Palace on loan, which meant he had to prove himself again, work his way back into the first team. We then signed him permanently because he did all right, and he's still now, Pardew is still making him work for his place in the team.
Would you say that you've seen a completely different Zaha back at Palace now to the Zaha that left you to join United?
I think we've seen a slightly more mature, grown-up Zaha. There's still bits of petulance there with Wilf, and I think with some talent player, flair players like him, you're always going to get that. You know, they're sort of players that do sort of live on the edge, and they're always sort of slightly in that fine line between genius and crazy. But he certainly seems to be sort of reeling it in a bit more, concentrating more on his final ball, concentrating on not beating a man 10 times, beating him once and getting it in. And he talks now in interviews more like a sort of mature player who can see that he's still learning. He's still quite a young man. So
how old is he now?
22, 23, I think. Long way to go.
Yeah.
Very talented player, but I think the United thing, in a way, possibly was good for him.
Yeah, as I said, I think there was the whole context of the situation really didn't help him in that situation at all. I do think he could have made more of it, but at the time, I remember the season, there was a United fan saying, "Where's Zaha? Why is Zaha not playing?"
Yeah.
So I completely agree with you that Moyes didn't give him enough opportunities, but the problem with a player like that is that when they do come on and they get their chance, everyone expects gold dust.
Well, huge expectation, especially for that sort of money as well. And, you know, Wilf can do that, but there'll be some games where he'll come on and he won't do that. And at Palace, he'll get the benefit of the doubt. You know, if he comes on the last 20 minutes, doesn't work, we're like, okay, that's Wilf. At United, I can imagine that they will be wanting results.
Yeah, well, it's the nature of you. When you don't get many opportunities, you have to take your chances when you get them.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he didn't. Because I remember there was, I think he came on against, was it Man City in the Community Shield? That was his first competitive, or wasn't even competitive, is that? I remember
if you can call it competitive.
That was such a terrible game. Everyone was dotted around the stage. There was like 40,000 United fans in there, but everyone was dotted around. There was no atmosphere.
Yeah.
But yeah, in that game, he was just Zaha. He had too many tricks in his game, and it was always a case of trying to find that diamond, that blitz, instead of just going, oh, look, it's passed.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not sure whether that's
but
still a part
he
of
is
his
learning
game.
that. He is learning that. We see it more often now in his game. Against West Brom, Chris Brunt was the left back. Terrible decision to play Brunt the left back. Wilf tore him to pieces. Then second half, they started to kick Wilf a lot, and he got fouled. And he got up and won, and went to challenge the guy. And you think, oh, this is the old Wilf. Here we go, losing his head. And he took a step back. He pushed the guy and got away with it a little bit. And then he got back on, won a penalty, got Palace's second goal. Which that is his game, rather than facing up.
What do you think? How do you think he's going to be mentally out of the game?
He's going to want to prove himself. He's going to obviously want to prove to Man United that he can be a Premier League player, which he is, and he's doing well for us. But he is at the moment in a bit of an up and down form. I think there's questions as to whether he will actually even start. But if he comes off the bench, he could be a potential match winner for us. And you know, a lot of Palace fans, we know Wilf. We've seen him grow up through the team. We know that he can blow hot and cold. But we know that when he does blow hot, he's fantastic. And obviously, we made money on the Wilf deal. So we
did great business.
We did great, brilliant business, and we're delighted to have him back. He's a local lad. We all love him. We love seeing local Croydon lads do well for Palace and the team. Hopefully, he'll stay with us for a long time and develop into a brilliant Premier League and England player.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I just wanted to chat to Jim about that because I think it's an interesting situation. The whole Zaha saga. That's a bit of a weird one. Now.
It sounds good though. Zaha
that's
saga.
going to be
Fun to say.
Yeah, I'm not saying that twice. But yeah, let's. Be interesting to have a chat in the comments with you guys. How do you think the Zaha situation went? Where does the blame lie? Do you think that it was more Moyes' fault, or was it Zaha himself that just didn't make the most of his opportunities? As always, thanks for chatting, Jim.
Thanks, man.
And as I said in the last video, bad luck at the weekend.
We'll see.
And I think it'll be interesting to see how Zaha plays. I personally think that he's going to try too hard. I think he'll be in the same mindset of, I've really got to dazzle here. I need to light the stage up.
But if he has a great game, he could really cause you problems.
So we'll see how it goes. And that's it for this video. And thanks for watching.
For United People's TV, Manchester United have just drawn 0-0 at home in the Premier League to Manchester City. Not much to say about the game, really. It was frustrating.